Welcome to the channel. I'm a member of a couple of Facebook groups, Cycle Touring, Lightweight Bikepacking, and recently I've seen a recurring number of questions relating to general bikepacking, what bike to take, how do you plan your routes, where do you stay, all those type of questions that keep coming around on a frequent basis at the moment. And I've decided to put this video together really to address a lot of the questions I keep seeing. So I'll start off with a quite common question, that's about bike choice. Now, the market's full of different types of bikes. Some people just use an ordinary touring bike, which is good strong bike. If you want to do things in a lighter way, I'm really focusing this video on lightweight bikepacking, typically on European trips, where the roads are in good condition generally. It's very much a trade-off really. I've used a road bike, it's fairly quick way of getting around, but the geometry is fine for speed but not so much good for comfort, especially when you ride for quite a few days. What I've elected to do is choose a gravel bike. This is my bike I use for all sorts of things including touring. It's a Specialized Diverge, all carbon. It's a disc brake bike which provides you with quite a bit of scope and width of tyres. I'm currently running this on 28mm tyres. You can go up to a 37, so it does give you quite a breadth of tyre width and tyre type. The important thing is overall comfort. Get the geometry that suits you. Bearing in mind you're going to be on the bike for quite a few hours a day typically. And central to that is your seat. Now I tried a few different seats. This particular Specialized seat here, whilst a bit unusual looking, it is extremely comfortable and highly recommended. So really your bike choice is all about sort of a compromise between comfort and speed really. It'd be great to time trial across France or something, a good high speed, but the consequence would be is the comfort. It's fine perhaps for a day, but not so good when you're doing it for sort of 10 days. And then going the other extreme is using a mountain bike, which would provide a lot more comfort, but of course you carry more weight, more drag, and therefore less speed as it were. I find the gravel bike a good sort of compromise between those sort of two extremes as it were, and you can tailor to a certain extent. Other things I do to the bike, make sure you've got 2 bottle cages. Water is quite important. I do keep lights on the bike, invariably go through tunnels quite often, but get your bike set up, get it serviced. I will start with a fresh set of tyres, fresh cables, new chain. Just generally give your bike a good checking over, check the spokes and the wheels, make sure there's obviously nothing wrong with it, and then get a few miles on before you leave. Don't just service it and then leave straight away. Get a few miles, get things bedded in and get checked again. So you know you've got a high degree of confidence your bike's going to be good for the duration. On the basis you're going to be doing 500,000 miles, maybe slightly more. Okay, the next question I see asked quite a bit is about route planning, about how to plan routes. Now I think the first thing to do is get an overall picture of where you want to go, what you want to see, what your final destination might be. And that's quite key really, because that does sort of keep you motivated during the route itself if you want to see something in particular. The next sort of part of the question is really is the how. How do you route plan? Now, a few years ago I came across a very useful bit of software called cycle.travel. It's a free online mapping tool, or route tool. It's very simple to use. You put a start point in, you put a destination point in, and the application then works out a good suitable cycling route. You can select between paved and unpaved, and the important thing is the route it chooses you can drag and drop. You can show the amount of elevation the route's got, and you can easily trade distance and elevation. And also what it also provides is a list or a route of cafes and restaurants and hotels. So that is particularly useful when you're travelling somewhere unknown, of what supplies you can pick up in terms of food, drinks and of course accommodation. The other thing it has, which is extremely useful, is it's integrated with Google Street View. So if you're unsure about a particular route or you'd like a bit more detail, you can look at points along the route and look at things like road surface, traffic densities, gradients if you're not sure. So that is a route planning tool which you can then save your route and download it as a GPX file if you want to download it into a Garmin. I use that tool. I tend to do route planning by the day, so day 1 route, day 2 route, day 3 route and so on. Put the distance in as well in terms of when I name the file, and that goes into my Garmin, and it's extremely useful, and you can store those so other people can gain access to them for future use and so on. Next question I see quite often is what to take. Now I'm sort of focusing this video on European travel in the summer, ideally for trips between 2 days and sort of 3 weeks. We tend to travel extremely light, so that means a change of clothes, one change of clothes for the evening, using some very lightweight clothes that can be washed if required. A few spares, a few Allen keys for the bikes, tube repair kit and so on, chain link. So everything's pared back to a minimum. Lightweight pair of shoes, a few snacks, always keep a few snacks on the bike for en route. Mobile phone, Garmin, battery pack sometimes, depending where we're going. And I've done a separate video, in fact, about the things I take. And I tend to end up with a load of about 4.5 to 4.8 kilograms, split between 2 bags. One at the front of the bike on the handlebars, and another one slung behind the seat. That works very well, very well. Now, in terms of where to stay, we tend to stay in smaller hotels, bed and breakfasts, and sometimes Airbnb accommodation. There's lots of options online. The first day and last day we tend to book ahead. The bit in the middle tends to be variable depending where we're going. The number of hotels, how many hotel rooms they have each. So if I'm going to a given town and I know there's about 400 hotel rooms, I sometimes take a little bit of a gamble and just turn up there, knocking on doors, and generally speaking it's okay, especially if you're in early season. So by that, if it's in Europe, I mean that's June, possibly early July time, you're generally okay. But overall it's probably best to book on the day or day before in that time of year. If it's midsummer, then you need to book in advance, especially if you are near the coast. So next point I've been asked in the past is about training for the event. Now this is completely related to how far you intend to travel on the trip itself. Now we tend to cover distances between about 70 and 100 miles, with climbs from sort of 400 metres a day to about 2,000 metres a day. I cycle all the year round as a matter of course. I routinely do trips of 40, 45, 50 miles. As I can get nearer a trip itself, I tend to up that training to regularly do 60, 70 mile trips per day, and then I start putting trips back to back. So I'm doing a 60 and another 60, and then I try and do a long weekend where I'm doing like a 60, 60 and a 70 or something like that. So we get about 200 miles compressed into 3 days. And once you've got to that level, providing not suffering badly, you should be in a good place to do an extended trip at a reasonable sort of pace, as it were. In terms of navigation, once you've established your route and you've saved your GPX file and you've downloaded it to a Garmin, it's fairly straightforward really. Do get used to using your Garmin at home on local trips. They do have a few sort of quirks that you need to get used to. Some people have suggested using mobile phones. I've tried that. It's not particularly good because of the amount of power they tend to use, and also a typical phone can be quite difficult to see in bright sunlight, whereas a Garmin has a good sort of contrast ratio and it can be viewed in sort of all lighting conditions really. I also carry a paper route card as well and a compass. I find that very useful, so you can just look up particular road numbers, place names, and use that as an extra aid. So I tend to use a combination of the route card, the compass sometimes. So one last part about navigation. The only time I really use a true sat-nav, as in the form of an iPhone with Google Maps for example, is in a town centre where I'm trying to find a particular hotel. It just speeds things up. You've got the visual aid and you've also got the audio aid as well. It's step-by-step instruction essentially, as with any other sat-nav. So that really comes into its own in that particular instance as it were. The other question I see quite often is about the logistics of a trip. Now, I've tried different combinations of getting to the start and then getting from the end point back home, as it were. I've flown out and ridden back. Done a trip to northern Spain where we flew to Bilbao and cycled all the way back through France and cross-channel ferry. I've flown out to one destination, cycled to a final destination, then travelled back home. I've taken the car, done a sort of circular route and then come back. And I've also done ride out and then train back and a ferry. So I've done sort of all combinations. My preferred sort of method of travel or getting to the start point is to fly there. It's quick. It's these days, in particular with the low-cost airlines, it's very cheap. Most carriers take your bike for about £40. Tickets from sort of £25 to £100 typically, so it's a fairly cheap way of getting to your start point. That being the case, I get a disposable cardboard bike box and package the bike particularly well. And then what I like to do then is do a trip with a destination where I fly back to my home airport with. The problem is with that approach is that you need to find another cardboard box to put your bike in to get home. And what I found the best way of doing that is to make contact with a bike shop in the destination town, write an email, do a translation to the national language, and hopefully you should get a response. Okay, so once you've got agreement with a local bike shop and they're going to hold a box back for you, is then just send them an email just a few days before you get there, just to give them a reminder that you are inbound for sure and you wish to have a box and a bit of packaging ready, a bit of polystyrene, a bit of extra cardboard, bubble wrap and so on. Usually you'll have no trouble at a typical time finding some tape, possibly a bit of glue, possibly some bubble wrap, polystyrene. It's usually fairly easy to come by in most hardware shops. Then you can package the bike up, get a taxi to the airport and travel back, or get a taxi to a railway station and travel by train back. And through Europe that's usually fairly okay. Most train operators facilitate that. So really the last point really I just want to make is just when you do your trip, just really enjoy it. I've done quite a few trips now, enjoyed every single one. Been a real sort of adventure. Take plenty of photographs, plenty of video. Why not upload it to YouTube? Watching the videos back is almost as enjoyable as doing the trip itself really. If you enjoyed the video, give us a thumbs up. If you've got any questions on any details, just put them in the comments below. And finally, I've got other videos coming up, so please subscribe for more. Thank you very much for watching. Bye for now.